Well, hi, everybody. You're very welcome to tonight's launch. Thank you so much for joining us. It's a great pleasure to be launching these two fantastic new pamphlets from Ignition Press with AV Bridgwood and Meredith MacLeod Davidson. My name is Niall Munro. I'm the director of Brookes Poetry Centre, where Ignition Press is based. I'm just going to say a few words about the press. And then my colleague Isabelle Baafi, who's been working as an associate editor on this batch of pamphlets, we'll both give a little introduction to each of the poets before each of them read. AV and Meredith will read for about 20 minutes each. AV first, and then Meredith. And then I'll invite each poet to read one more poem at the end before we wrap up around maybe slightly before 8 o'clock UK time. So this recording is being recorded for our YouTube channel later on. So if you know anybody who didn't manage to make it along, you can let them know and they can track it down later. Although since it's obviously a webinar only, only the poets, me and Isabelle, are being recorded. However, as some people have already discovered, you can certainly use the chat to contribute some comments or positive thoughts, if you like, and you should be able to access that at the bottom of your screen. I'm also going to be screen sharing the poems this evening, so feel free to read along as the poets read. There are also closed captions are available, so if you need to use those, please navigate towards the bottom of the screen and click on the relevant button. I also wanted just to say, there's just as a kind of content note, there's going to be some explicit language and material in the poems. So if you have any small children, this would be the time to get them to leave the room. As we go along, I'll be sharing links in the chat to the pages on our website where you can buy copies of AV's pamphlet Snack and Meredith's Transpiration. And I also wanted to draw your attention to the fact that we currently have a sale on, although not for very long. So you can buy pamphlets from our back catalogue for a reduced price as well. The press itself was established by Brookes Poetry Centre here at Brookes University with the aim of being a press with an international outlook which publishes original arresting poetry from emerging poets. We've now published actually 30 pamphlets, 6 of which have been selected as Poetry Book Society pamphlet choices. 5 were shortlisted for the Michael Marks Award for Poetry. 2 of our authors have won Eric Gregory Awards for their work in the pamphlets. And in 2021, the press won the Michael Marks Publishers Award. Actually note that there are several of our Ignition Press poets in the event this evening and the audience. So you're very welcome. It's great to have you along here. Thanks so much for coming along. You can learn more about the Centre's activities and various different events on our website if you just search for Oxford Brookes Poetry Centre. If you're not already following us on social media, where we've been posting various things about our poets and events, you can do so. We are at Brookes Poetry, that's BROOKES Poetry, on various platforms. One of the things I will be posting is information about a couple of interviews that I recorded with AV and Meredith recently, which give some fascinating insights actually into their thought process behind the poems and how they put the pamphlet together. So please look out for those. As I say, I'll share them as soon as they are edited and live. After the retirements of 2 of the founders of the press, who were also editors over the last year, things have been quite different in 2025. But I've been really, really lucky to have Isabelle Baafi as a guest editor on this round of pamphlets. From the selection process to publication, she's been a real joy to work with, and her sharp eye for detail, wonderful understanding of how a collection can kind of come together and develop, and really wonderful commitment to the process and to poetic excellence. That's all made what could have been quite a challenging period for me into one of excitement and possibility. So she did all of this despite the fact that she was releasing her own fantastic book from Faber, Chaotic Good, which came out this year, and also moved to a different country. So despite all of this, she was completely committed to the process. So huge thanks, Isabelle, for all the wonderful work you've done with AV and with me on the pamphlets. And finally, huge congratulations to AV and Meredith. It's been a real privilege to work with you on these pamphlets and for us to publish your poetry. And we're very grateful to you for entrusting us with it. And without further ado, I'm going to hand over now to Isabelle, who is going to introduce AV to read. Isabelle, thank you.
Thanks, Neil. And Just to echo, thank you everyone for coming tonight. It's great to have you here. And thank you so much for helping us to celebrate these two brilliant pamphlets by AV and Meredith. It's been so wonderful to encounter great new poetry and to see that there are still voices which are bringing out important work. There's so much I want to say about working with AV, which I will. But first, I just want to reflect on another reason why this is such a special moment. Niall kind of indicated my relationship with Ignition started years ago. It actually started about 6 years ago. When I was shortlisted for the prize, which they used to run, they no longer do. And a few months after that, my pamphlet was selected by them to be published, which it was in 2020. And since then, I've had the pleasure of working with Niall and his former colleagues, Les and Claire, many times, and they've always been so supportive and so kind. Ignition really is a special press for all the reasons that Niall said and many more. They champion poets who have something urgent and important to say, and they have a real understanding of why poetry is important and what makes it great. So it's been an absolute honor to come back as an editor this year and to help that legacy continue. I think it's proof of how committed they are to supporting their poets in the long term. During the process, Niall and I read every submission, and we were struck by the range of ideas and styles that came through. We spoke at length about what we liked and why we liked it, but immediately in every round, AV's submission stood right out. Right from the beginning, their poems had humor and pathos, complexity and accessibility, abandon and control, and they demonstrated a lot of confidence in the way AV navigates coming of age, nostalgia, postmodern commentary, and watchful hope. In Snack, AV interrogates how gender-based violence, trans identity, friendship, grief, ecocide, intergenerational trauma, and capitalism coexist. And they do it so ambitiously, but so deftly, looking at how they complicate each other. It's a pamphlet with bite, which is quite literal in some of the poems. AV has a keen awareness of how the structures we live in influence how we see ourselves and each other, how we navigate the crises of our time, how we give meaning to the things that matter, and how we can redeem what is worth saving. AV and I worked together over several months, and every conversation was so fruitful. Every time we spoke, they knew exactly what they wanted to achieve with each poem and how their use of form, syntax, imagery, punctuation, and voice could best achieve their goals. But they were also open-minded and diligently reflective between our discussions, willing to try things a different way and to sharpen the poems to make them more piercing. They understood how language can be used to build and deconstruct worlds, and how to lead the reader through such worlds in a way that was surprising and revelatory, confrontational but kind. AV is a writer from Manchester, now based in London. Their work has been published in journals such as Oxford Poetry, 14 Poems, Propel, and Magma. They won the Oxford Poetry Prize in 2024, were commended in the National Poetry Competition in 2023, and came second in the Rialto's Nature and Place competition in 2024. They perform regularly at events such as Poetry in Aldborough and the European Poetry Festival. They are also a former Foyle Young Poet, and they graduated with distinction from UEA's MA in Creative Writing. I'm so proud and so pleased to see Snack come into the world, and I'm sure this is the beginning of many more incredible things for them. So congratulations, AV, and please join me in welcoming them, AV Bridgwood.
Thanks, Isabelle. That was so lovely. And yeah, it was absolutely amazing working with Isabelle on this. One of the reasons that I was so thrilled to be publishing this with Ignition Press is that they really invest in getting their poets that editorial support. And yeah, it was just fantastic. Isabelle was so precise and thorough and imaginative, and all our conversations were just so inspiring and thoughtful, and she really licked the pamphlet into shape. So thank you so much, Isabelle, and thanks Niall as well for all your work on the Niall also gave some really helpful, intelligent comments on the pamphlet and has been doing loads of amazing work behind the scenes. So yeah, thank you both. I'm gonna start with a poem that I mean, now Isabelle's given that introduction that makes it sound so wide-ranging, I'm like, am I really starting with a poem about Babybel cheese? But you know, I think we all as poets have images that we can't help coming back to, and unfortunately Babybels are mine. So yeah, this is Greedy. Hell yes, I am, foraging in the kitchen after the threesome, ransacking the cupboards while they're sleeping. She's meal prepped his office lunches, tucked a love letter and a Babybel into every Tupperware, cut the crusts off his sandwiches. I've always loved looking in other people's fridges. I go through them reading the notes. You are my one and only, and eating the Babybels, scrunching up the idyllic landscape on the packaging, splitting the red circle with my fingernails, crumbling the cheese onto my tongue. I eat the whole week's supply. I'm yours. I want to share my life with you. Playing Pac-Man on the counter with a red shell open like a mouth and wax balls that I shape by warming them with my lips. Who are these people? Lids clicked over portioned grapes, unslammable drawers, boiling water straight from the tap. How much does it cost? Something like that. Full now, I am peeling them just to peel them. I want red stuck beneath my nails, want the feel of the warm skin yielding, the warm center revealing itself, the warm mouth opening. I want to have my life and eat it too. So yeah, that sort of feeling of like, I want to have my life and eat it too, I think is very, I think a lot of the pamphlet explores that kind of appetite and frustrated appetite and desire. And the next poem, I think, is one that I see as a very like trans poem. I wanted to write something that sort of like expressed the way that I felt when I was trying to perform femininity in a way that was really like not working for me before I kind of realized that I was genderqueer, and the sort of yeah, the kind of dissociation and sort of the performance of that sort of created. So yeah, this is called Adult Braces. Every time I want to eat something, suck something, lick something, I have to spit out this transparent mold of myself, manufactured just for me in America, squeezing me on crooked. Smile, says the dentist, stretching my lips with his steel hooks, latex thumbs caressing my gums. Now that I'm hot, crypto guy flies me to Dubai to suck his cock. Yum, I say on the threshold. Yum, my suitcase bursting open, spilling thongs and floss. I hook my smile back on in the golden bathroom, American plastic rounding my canines. Can you drink champagne through that thing? He asks afterwards, running me a bubble bath in his waterproof Rolex. What about Starbucks? Imagine if you ordered a pumpkin latte and all your teeth fell out like you were old. I'm young, I say. You're old, which is true. And he does a vampire bit that ends with his mouth at my throat. It's not funny, but I giggle, showing my plastic. We go to the world's largest shopping mall for post-coital Krispy Kremes. There is a glittering tank of live sharks by Hermes. He tells me their teeth are filed down, just in case. A shark is a shark, I say, spitting the plastic mold into a napkin, placing it lovingly in my fake Birkin. Chemical jam bloodies my chin. Round and round the toothless sharks swim. Yeah, all my friends are getting married at the moment. I'm just like in that moment where suddenly like everyone around me is getting married and having babies, and I think like being a queer person can often make you feel slightly kind of outside of that, or in a slightly strange relationship to it. And yeah, this one's called Bridesmaid. 2 buns dripping cardamom onto cardboard. We're wrapped in your worst towels. I love how your hair dries, clumping like flung earth, then splitting into static. So this is how you live here, naked in a pine box, watching the sails. Fjord is a whatever word, a place you take sandwiches. You turn the hourglass, throw water on the hot stones, sidle off the pier's end like you're crossing a road. What do I know? I am the visitor. I come bearing supermarket tulips. The fiancé makes me spin fables of your adolescence, leave my shoes at the door. The fjord is still pretty wild to me, pooled like desire in its V of mountains, its rocks sinewed like clenched hands. I spent basically the whole summer moving house because of a leak in my ceiling, which like it was just one of those situations where like I got a poem out of it very early, and then I was like, okay, can the situation be over now? So yeah, in memory of the leaky ceiling that I have finally escaped. It's called Housing Crisis. I'm outside, she texted, and on cue, the ceiling started dripping. God, I tried so hard to make it nice, candles and everything, overwhelmed by the feminine urge not to feel ashamed of where we live in front of the people we want to fuck. Pass me a bucket, she said, knock on the neighbour's door, knowing what to do like a dad. Not mine, of course, but how I imagine other people's. God, it made me wet. Or like a partner, I guess, the sort people live with beneath silent, uncracked ceilings. We drank and listened to the echo in the metal bowl, a rhythm that she tapped out on my thigh, my chest, until she carried me to bed, the drip next to my head. I lay back and thought of England, its moulds and mosses slowly taking for themselves the rented houses, greening the crawl spaces, blackening the grout, tower blocks absorbed into the forest, spore by spore. I lay, hands planted in her hair, and watched damp stains curling down the cracks like succulent vines, ceiling warping under weight of eglantine, water's ruthless heartbeat buckling the walls, claiming back the house. She dressed and left and texted, call up polite as fuck, sound girlish, and pretend you were afraid. To the council for your life. To the landlord for the building. I slept alone. Dark petals on the ceiling kept on blooming. So this one it's kind of the title poem, I guess, and it was just highly commended in the Forward prizes. So I'm really chuffed about that, and it's also in the Forward Book of Poetry this year. If you want to check that out as well, Isabelle also has a poem in there. So yeah, the snack. Halfway through making him a snack, Grandma changed her mind and turned the knife on him, my dad, that small boy running down the garden path. No, probably there was no garden. Boy running straight into the street, terraces crowded like bad teeth, drunks lying on the doorsteps waiting for wives to take them in with the milk. Or was it in Southend? They were always moving. Small boy running past the crouch beach huts, the rotting nets, running on through the decades into the day of her death, where he's beating the shit out of the hospital vending machine, trying to dislodge a Twix to feed me from its coil, unyielding. She's raising the knife in the dark 1970s kitchen, Wallpaper fever orange. No, 60s it would have been. Queasy green formica, boy in school shorts running past dad's crushing cigarettes on the pier's rusted girders. Small boy running out into the salt marshes, sinking through the clinging silt, down and down into this room where I'm trying to run and he's blocking the door with the bulk of himself, where he's 6'4". She's raising the knife and he's running with the plate, balancing the apple slices, the white bread with margarine. There he goes along the shore, tangle of steel beneath cracked boards, faded posters for summer shows, or was it summer then? Bright posters, fat gulls, blackened bones of the pavilion. No, it would have been before the fire, white bones of the pavilion, loose slats splintering his boy feet, past horses grinning on the carousel, coins layered like slate in the slot machines, further and further past the great fire in years to come, past the £5 million restoration after his time, with a boy leap crashing through the black eel-muscled water, out into a future where, long dead, he passes me the plate and I throw it at the wall. Streak of margarine on the farrow and ball. The child I'll never have screaming. The husband I'll never have screaming. Enough, enough. It stops here. Do another slightly depressing family one, and then I'll do a couple of slightly more cheerful ones. This one is called Carrier. Flixbus over the border to get my ovaries cheaply looked at. Am I incubating your fate in me like an egg? Gloopy yolk of your slow death congealing in my future. They will let me know on Thursday via the online gene portal. See, Mum, I invest in my health now, make my own money and press my own tofu, stacking your Nigellas. The doctor makes me draw our family on an envelope, cross out my dead in exchange for a biscuit. Blood work, says the sign. The nurse taps my arm like he suspects I'm hollow. Albumin weirdly round at the hotel buffet. I cannot afford this knowledge back home where prophecy is dear. Does it matter? The answer I know already. I carry your death in me like a child nursing a chick. Its whole world, that chick, fuzz like a sick tongue, small cries to be fed. I know I've carried it these 12 years, a child who halves worms with a spade, whose only work is the nursing, the carrying of this hungry, trembling thing. I was in Thailand recently because a friend was having a gender affirming surgery there, and it was just every day there was constant like, what am I going to wear on the beach? And yeah, this is I wrote this one on that trip, which was a really great, beautiful, joyful trip. So beach body. 47 swimwear dysphoria meltdowns later. I'm sandy all over, chest happy and flatter in a new tiger pattern binder, raw. Pulping a tamarind, cracked pod, clinging strands, tangy heart. Morning air so dank I can smell myself, and it's not half bad. Shallows confettied with clumped ants who died mating, wings wilting. I push them aside with my perfect breaststroke. No lights, no coracles in the hushed night. Vast ocean tepid as a kid's bath. I share it with ticklish creatures, and I'm not afraid, plunging in my boy speedos, tongue dyed orange. Fuck, is this water electric? A tentacle purples my thigh like a love bite. I am a massive Agatha Christie fan. And yeah, this is I feel like I find myself writing quite a lot of poems about Agatha Christie, actually. And this is one of them. Self-portrait as Agatha Christie novel. Some say the pacing drags and the ending is impossible, but I love this solution unfurling slowly in me like a fortune fish in a hot palm. It all hinges on the knowledge of a child, strange, watchful, found silenced at the birthday party with an apple in her mouth, after which violence becomes ordinary as breakfast, kippers sweating on a silver platter, for the survivors in silly hats squabbling over an inheritance that never existed. Don't worry, I have a wise old girl in me who baffles the authorities by listening to the gardener, the servant, the patient, raises an eyebrow at the true gent, the good wife. One day she'll gather the squabbling selves together, ancestors looking down from panels of oak slicked and beaten almost into glass, and reveal who it was, who stripped the body, who roughed up the flower bed and slashed Grandpa's portrait. And the one she points to will stand up and say, yes, it is I. Yes, I am the heart of this story. Yes, I am the blood of it. And I'll say, oh, I see it now. Of course, that was the meaning of the smashed clock, the unsigned letter, the figure fleeing down the narrow passages of the hurtling night train to God knows where. Of course, that was the beginning and the middle that led to this, finally, the ending. And I will finish there, aptly. Thanks so much for listening, everybody.
Fabulous. Thank you so much, AV. That was wonderful. Really, really great. And if you're interested at all in where some of those Agatha Christie references come from, in the back of the pamphlets, there's a couple of notes, I think, which gesture towards a few Agatha Christie books where you might find them. So amazing, AV. Thank you so much. I can never tire of hearing you read the snack poem. Actually, it's just such a remarkable piece of work. And if you're interested, that is one of the poems that we talked about in the interview, which isn't live yet, but when it goes live, I'll obviously let everybody know. And you can hear AV talk a bit more about where that poem came from. So thank you so much. I've just put a little note in the chat there. If you want to track down a bit more about the pamphlets and buy copies, please look at that link. You can obviously you can just search for Oxford Brookes Poetry Centre or Ignition Press. And we're not to be confused with the gigantic comic press, which has just recently launched in America. We are not them, but you should be able to find our website nevertheless. So I'm going to introduce Meredith now, which I'm really very happy and excited to do. I had a lot of fun working with Meredith on her pamphlet. She's an extremely generous and thoughtful poet and person, exemplified by the fact that she runs not one but two poetry projects in Glasgow, where she is now based, having originally come from Virginia in the States. She runs Crisp Packet Poetry, an organisation which is dedicated to broadening creative opportunity and community, and a reading series called Discount Guillotine, both of which I highly recommend. If you're ever in Glasgow, track them down, go along. Meredith's dedication to poetry as a form, therefore, and its capacity to do things is terrific. And you will get a real sense of that, I think, through reading and listening to her writing. She understands keenly how poetry can take on difficult and significant topics, whether that's environmental disaster, the kind of relationships we might cultivate with non-human beings, or on a kind of more local but no less significant level, how we might find the language to relate to each other, especially in times of grief or personal difficulty. So there is darkness in, I should have shown them to you earlier, but here is Snack. Yeah. and here is Transpiration. So there is darkness in this pamphlet, but there is light too. Meredith writes in one poem that we are all capable of extraordinary journeys. So there again, there is that sense of generosity, both in terms of the poem and the kind of characters and ideas in it, but also to the reader. And when I read one of Meredith's poems, I know I'm going to be taken on a journey of some kind. Perhaps I won't end up where I expected. Maybe I'll feel a bit unnerved by the time I get to the destination. But I'll also know that my guide, whilst acknowledging the complexity of the experiences that they're describing, has been very genuine and honest with me every step of the way. So it gives me great pleasure to introduce Meredith and ask her to read. Over to you, Meredith.
Thank you. Yeah, and just thanks to you and to Isabelle as well. Yeah, the process with Ignition has been unreal, and I just appreciate so much the attention and time that's been given and the back and forth and discussion. And yeah, this amazing pamphlet would not have come to be without that. So thank you. Yeah, I'll just read some poems. This first one is Ecotone. I molt my way toward wherever the leftover energy goes, the path seasoned since last snowfall by the footsteps and ski cuts of hundreds. In another swampland, a family takes loop after loop through their forest. A grandfather is born in a sauna like so many others before. My grandfather had his name tattooed on his knuckles. To the family, a source of great shame, but I admire the recognition of the self in language, the clarity he found in his naming, essential as rhyme. In the forest, a tree creaks in the wind, made louder by the pillar of ice clung firmly to its side, bonded via a nightly freezing of fog, drifting spectral through the wood. As the wind convulses its shoulders, a friction of bark and ice tap out vegetal code, words pay attention. I'm here, I say. I hear you. Letters form in the snow. I trace them with my breath. The swamp will thaw in season, the gray birdhouse increasingly embellished with green. I lay one hand on a lifeless tree, feel the pulse of it emerge from the cold. My skin sticks to the bark and peels off painfully. Must it have such grief as to hold back my flesh? In her base I find a nail, planted by human hammer with human hand. This is curatorial practice. Any American can draw a bullet quite easily from memory. Pen following the arc of its cool metal shaft, like a smile stuck on canvas, lead puncturing the portrait. We hold behind velvet ropes. Repetitive tasks, cold and copper. Contortionist Eve lowers her neck, vertebrae by vertebrae, to clinch the apple in her teeth. Swallowed, a search for where to send our money. Lifeless links to fundraisers, captions for web captive ghosts. Shells picked from the pavement, recycled. The internet is a graveyard. We wander dolefully amongst the dead. A number we might paint with graphic precision. Their bright, or false, smiles light the way as paper lanterns. If turned on their head, they rise indefinitely into the night. Yeah. Excuse me. This next one's called Afterlife. Geomagnetic activity on high, bread crust creak of the house, all the fruit eaten out of season, cloud cover obscuring, wind, the echo of whiteness compelled by snow spread on the bark. Can this be the rhythm of return? Silence, a reckoning, a stand before a multiply iced pine, breathing through, the skin are crackling in, The breeze, two living joints, together friction from being. Extremes and reactions, margins jettison water to better hold for the winter. Hold still. Prints of a hair passed through the snow. Tree, ghostly as the page. And then this is Letter to a Friend in St. Patrick's Cemetery. You died online. I lay on a stranger's couch, a wall of their relatives frowning down at me as I read the post announcing your end. What a way to go. Too busy dying to assure me you were doing fine. Nearly a decade passes and we continue to avoid each other. On my last visit to your cemetery, I had come empty-handed, so I laid myself to the earth above you, my body, my offering, like how we used to lie naked on the bathroom floor, crying to Hootie and the Blowfish. How fucking stupid for a man to be so moved by dolphins. I like to imagine future schoolchildren making etchings of your name, charcoal and fat fist rubs, but your family replaces your headstone almost annually, lengthening the time for it to season in marble. I guess I forget the years tumbling by, preferring to think of you as freshly planted in the earth rather than mere bone and stubborn sinew and sockets full of worms. No space for contradictions. All the unsavory things I held in my mouth as evidence of your vibrant life. At the reception, your father told me your sister's college plans, and I wondered how time could move in so many directions at once. Like the light that seeps through February pines encircling the country club, the stiff dirt crumbling to ice at my feet. The iPhone sends me images of you on the most innocuous days. Our grins digitally altered, the red in our eyes blotted out. My sister, my despised. All the people who remind me I'm being sentimental. Were you still alive, would we even speak anymore? I know I'm down there with you, whatever scraps of you remain, your fleshy heart not yet eaten, holding, somewhere, something left of me. Lost my way. Subliminal. Subliminal. Sacrifice a day of labor at the altar of grief. Drive north on Beeline Highway, race autumn storms, stalk the mountains as a ring of abandoned mines. Send my body far-flung into the wilderness to become a remembrance. Saloon time views with authentic swinging double doors. To feel the fragments in the vital presence of genetic memory, hosted in my hips, my collarbones. A self duplicated from the Chesapeake Bay through the Lehigh Valley to the banks of the Potomac River to the canyon quarries of northern Arizona. One stoplight town's crumbling, clearance for the unrestraint of spirits, ambulating recklessly across disappearing landscapes. Petrified, like eyelashes wet in the late November breeze. Snowflakes propelling upward or melting too fast to meet the ground. The leaves filtering light in mustard and ruined jades, and the fallen faded to brittle skins. Standing still so as not to break the surface tension. My ankles and the overflow become one. Absence is impossible. There's only lessened presence. Like how my oxygen escaped as I learned of her death through the phone. The way her lungs stopped taking oxygen. By degrees. The air cools with the moment. The sun sublimates itself to a horizon. We are entirely dependent on adequate rain. I sought subcutaneous affirmation far from Kahlo's Casa Azul, a stone chamber in sunlight where I was the whale suspended in glycerin, deep in the arms of an artist collective, floral on the tongue. A sensory whirlwind, the blue swirl emoji can only be resourced by scrolling every symbol. It doesn't emerge if you search it just by blue. Cyclonic with recurvature and increasingly difficult to track. You are an expansive possession. Zombie fish with their heads sliced off will be moved to swim by the spine. Under ice, the motion is limited. I am saying I want to be your idol, glossed with devotion and phantoming possession more so than the internet. I am saying it's the mother wound. I am saying something else. On that country's neck, you get hurricanes both ways, and the naming system becomes useless. Our last day in the city, I missed you in Chapultepec Park, circling Rivera's water organ, looking for the drainage channels, monsters making their homes beyond the primordial, soup dried and missing the pressure of a full basin, placing an ear tenderly against the brass pipes, trying to imagine water. The birch in the churchyard. I commanded angels, drove ghosts to soil, and detailed a heaven burst from flamboyant birds. The pastor took me aside. Quite imaginative, but that's not really our doctrine. The church coffers full for spending on new youth spaces and safe playground equipment. A yellow crane scanning the bell tower and yanking at a birch tree's foundation, resisting displacement with a sprawl of roots tangling powerfully deep in the earth, mirror of her skyward spread. First letter held into the bark. No need to leave an entire name. Children's handwriting only possible from an arboreal base. As above, so below. It doesn't much matter what I believe. My name, carved with twig tip, gone into the birch's impressionable canvas. Each other an icon, massive in plastic memory. The inviolable pressure of loving, leaving no option but to demand the record of a cross. In the churchyard we met weekly for lemonade, in winters for cool exchanges of breath. The birch unpapering with every season. The pastor asks I define my faith. I wanted to say simply, the tree. I'll give a little contextual bit for the next piece. This is an acrostic poem in response to one of multiple paintings made by Giovanni Paolo Panini of the St. Peter's Basilica in Rome, Italy. Panini painted nearly 30 versions of the basilica's interior over the course of several decades, with each painting reflecting changes made to St. Peter's interior over the years, including the addition of statues or other changes in its ornate decoration. The poem in this pamphlet, which I'm about to read, responds to one of Panini's paintings done in 1754, which is currently on display in Washington, D.C.'s National Gallery of Art. Interior of St. Peter's, Rome, 1754. A sense of want, broad enough to seal absence, one so stark as to be interned in bodily cells, sick with missing you, history, a shadow exacting tribute, the parts of me you should know, almost ready to risk your judgment. Because my love is more important to me now, the national record is hostile, even here under surveillance. Difficult to remember where we find safety in this city anymore. I've lost track of the turn lanes and the ways the traffic lights shift to yellow. In St. Peter's, the people gesture upward, desire arcs out windows, but often rebounds from marble walls and floors. I become the beggar in my wanting, foregrounded, yet furthest from the vaulted ceiling, the appraising eye of carved angels. I fold like a child and stay there, learning, flattening a cheek against cool stone, thinking myself down to earth, sacrificing a length of the human in service to the divine. In memory, how tall that was. 4, then 5 stories, and I couldn't begin to capture it, title it. Even in exaltation, I cannot replicate my reach. Again, my body down, away from glory, from heaven. Time zones muddying waters, but expanding the feeling. The city under flood watch. Supermoons raise tides, rivers. Higher, higher. And yeah, I'll just have 2 more here, so. This is fermenting. In dreams you held me, I held you. I cracked an egg on the floor and cooked it right there, despite heat, flame, or footfall. We entered each other repeatedly, so alien to me in dreams, in coupling. You'd cut your hair. The wind sliced through the house. In your old bedroom, I didn't even remember removing my pants. I withheld all the I love yous that coursed from my belly to our lips. There was a photo taken from the street of us, doubled over in laughter and matching maroon. Failing to capture the crunch of fallen leaves, collected at the base of the large tree in the yard. Sound, texture, downswept pressure. A cheese invented itself in this dreamland, a neat wedge with spiced preserves veined through. You held to my mouth and urged me try. You, so altered, there, so easy to love. An inaccessible self seated at the edge of the bed, watching from the level of consciousness. The iris scroll, the frequent lift of eyelids. I wake, and the room smells of oak, maple. The wind has died down. Sorry, getting over a cold. Yeah, I'll end on Deltaville, which actually opens the pamphlet. This is Deltaville. 2 years gone and not much changed, but for the marina felled by the hurricane superburst. Hyper-specific storm target. Anchorless, a boat bangs against sea-weathered pylons. Bells installed by dead men ring across rivers. A call of morning through the mouth of the seagull, the seahawk on westbound wind. Perched, a heron will watch the tide from the dock until disturbed by footfall. The river remembers, the heron's limb dragged across its surface as the bird gathers itself to flight. Men pushing mowers sever clusters of mushrooms surging forth from the bases of pines. Not vegetal evidence of this season's rain. I taught my mother about underground mushroom networks yesterday. Detailed the jumbles of thread-like hyphae which facilitate exchanges of nutrients, retain water, communicate. My mother wanted to know if you could use mycelium networks to describe other entanglements. I want to know, when I come back to the water, will the river still ripple at height? Will there still be birds? Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Meredith. That was great. So wonderful to hear them read out loud. And hopefully you get a real sense there of just the extraordinary range of this pamphlet. You know, in barely 30 pages, it covers just a remarkable amount of territory, literally territory, and also just, you know, conceptual territory as well. So I've just, again, sort of stuck in the The chat, if you'd like to track down the pamphlets or find a bit more out about the poets and the pamphlets themselves, please do check out the link. We're going to close, as we always do, by just having one more poem by each poet, and then I won't say anything else after that. I'll just let their words finish up the event. So thank you, huge thank you to everybody who's tuned in this evening. It's been wonderful having you here to celebrate, as Isabelle said, the launch of these two fantastic pamphlets. Please do support them, support the poets, track down the pamphlets, and if you put in your orders, I will be mailing them out to you in the next few days. Please do follow the poets as well. They're both on Instagram if you want to track down what kind of work they're doing right at the moment, and read more of their poetry. So huge thanks to Isabelle and to AV and Meredith. I'm going to turn over to AV now to read their last poem, and then Meredith will close it up. So thanks again, everybody, so much for coming along.
Thanks for coming, everyone. And that was beautiful, Meredith. And so great to see them on the page as well. Amazing shapes. This is Have You Always Known? I'm travelling back into myself as if on a night train. Prayer wail of engine, laminated meal photos hung in the dining car, spattered mutton, strangers stacked like Tupperware in my bedroom. Midnight crossing, armed guards raising ID cards to the keening lights, dozing off in mizzle to wake in snow. Landscape without landmark, creature perhaps lynx stalking the frosted tracks, as if I'm climbing down a ladder past the wandering hands of snoring men, my destination on a sign, as if I'm seeing the sights at the end of the line, a church gutted in the gorse, the shock of frescoes still bright, this white of lamb, this red of earth, of wound, of mouth open in awe.
Beautiful, Ivy. Yeah, this is The Forest in Winter, which I'll close with. It's after Helen Ivory's poem, The Family at Night. You and I were spruce trees in the snug winter light. Snow castles bled from our fingers in terrifying dribbles of ice. Like sand, we moved closer together when wet and further apart when dry. Our needles spread outward year-round. We lifted our limbs closer to the sky so corvids could call to sunset, even in the February still. Every so often, our smallest branches would snap, and the raw red of our insides met the cold. We froze there in the birthing of new wounds, unsealed till spring. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks so much, everybody. Take care and good night.